I mean, Germany literally could be taking pages out of Mein Kampf, Mertz, and reading them, just changing, updating it. It's the same thing. Militarization, Drag nach Osten. I want to remind people about Ostplan, Plan Ost. The systemic slaughtering of the Slavs. And listen to the way Mertz talks about the Russians, the dehumanization of the Russians. So if you're German, understand this. You don't get a free pass at all. You have committed horrific sins in the course of the past century. Twice in a century and a half, you've taken the world to global conflict, killings hundreds of millions of people. And now you're getting ready to do it again. I'm sorry. I guess there are good Germans, but no. If you're a German right now and you understand your history, understanding the whitewashing of the Nazis that took place in the aftermath of the Second World War, understanding that Nazi war criminals were given a free pass by the United States, by the British, to be reabsorbed for the purpose of confronting the Soviet Union. The European Union is, running around lauding itself as, the last bastion of democracy, saying they're even better than the United States. And they have free speech. They have freedoms. It's the exact opposite. These are oppressive societies that suppress free speech across the board. These are, the European Union is this artificial construct that is the antithesis of sovereignty. It seeks to, bring to life a Frankenstein monster of, an amalgam of European nations and cultures that stand for nothing except oppression, because they don't have any fundamental values. They're there to empower. I mean, literally, the European Union exists to empower entitled political and economic elites. It was created by them, for them, on their behalf. That's it. They're not here to promote any values. They're not here to help populations. They're there to enrich themselves and their supporters. And, the Ukraine war has become a vehicle of sustainment for these political and economic elites. And anybody who dares put forward a narrative, especially a fact-based narrative, drawn from European facts as opposed to Russian facts, as Jacques Bald has done. He simply uses the truth as recognized by the Europeans. There's not a single fact in his writing that is under dispute. It's just the way he connects the dots, exposes the lies and the hypocrisy of the European elite. And so they silenced him. Look, I was invited to go to Europe in March to promote my new book, which is being published in several European languages. I'm not going, because frankly speaking, they'll arrest me. And I just don't want to go through that harassment. I'm not afraid of these people, but, my daughter's giving birth to a baby. I want to be home for them instead of fighting some stupid legal case in a European court. Europe is a place that can't be visited right now. If you're an American, don't visit Europe, because they don't believe in free speech. They don't have American values. They are the opposite of that. And right now they're turning on America. I mean, they are actively conspiring in a way that hurts the national security of the United States. Europe is the enemy. Donald Trump was right to point this out in his national security strategy. I mean, Europe is headed towards civilization erasure, because there is no European civilization anymore. The European Union is not civilization. It's a dictatorship by any other name. They are working against our interests. They are promoting war. They are, breaking the law and reinventing the law, trying to steal sovereign wealth from Russia. There's no legal justification for anything they're doing. They just say it's good for Europe, and therefore they come up with different variations of a theme. Taxation without representation, just again promoting everything they claim not to stand for is what they're promoting. I can't go to Europe. They're so stupid that they think that we don't know history. They're reinventing the Second World War right now, pretending Russia simply didn't play a role in the defeat of Nazi Germany. I mean, Kelly Kalas is just a colossal embarrassment to humanity. I mean, she's just beyond it. The stupidity of her statements are beyond belief. You got Sikorski, the Polish foreign minister, who wants to pretend that Poland is the friend of Ukraine. Study your damn history. I have. I know it better than you, apparently. I know that, for instance, Poland suppressed Western Ukrainian independence in the Polish-Ukrainian conflict from 1918 to 1919. And then during the Polish-Soviet conflict from 1919 to 1921, you destroyed Ukrainian independence. Poland hates Ukraine. Study the history of Poland. I'm not going to justify what the Ukrainians did in Volhynia in 1943. That cannot be justified. But understand there was deep resentment from the Ukrainian population about the arrogance and the elitism of the Poles, who treated the Ukrainians like utter crap, because Poland never believed in Ukraine, doesn't believe in Ukraine today. They just have been hijacked by these globalists, these European elites who buy into this fake notion of. I think when it's all said and done, they start parsing through. Once the European Union collapses and the records are opened, you're going to find that the European Union as a construct was one of the most fundamentally corrupt institutions on the planet, because there is no checks and balances. They literally are a law unto themselves, and the people that are empowered by them politically do things. They're starting to look at the former foreign minister. I forget her. It begins with an M, Margarita or more. She's under investigation. Wait till Ursula von der Leyen, they open the books on her and see what she did and what they all do. We mock Ukraine for being the most corrupt place on earth, but corruption begets corruption, and the European Union is extraordinarily corrupt too. So this is a travesty. I mean, it's actually good that we see the truth about the European Union. So there's no nostalgia over Europe. This isn't your grandfather's Europe. This is a new Europe, a sick Europe, a diseased Europe, and a Europe that's fundamentally anti-American. And as an American, and I know there's people out there, Scott, America, you're a hypocrite. Hey, screw you. I don't care about you guys. What I care about is what's happening right now. I understand my history better than you do. Remember who stood up against the Iraq War, who called out the United States as, the perpetrator of an illegal war of aggression, who's standing up the United States today, accusing them of preparing to carry out a similar illegal war of aggression in Venezuela. So pound sand. I know my history and I know my role as a citizen, but I also know that my government is making an effort to undo the sins of the past by promoting peace with Russia. That's why we promulgated a national security strategy that doesn't define Russia as an enemy or adversary, but rather as an ally of stability, a force of stability, a partner for stability. Pretty amazing stuff. The two largest nuclear armed nations in the world, instead of posturing off against each other for potential nuclear annihilation, talking about normalization of relations, something everybody should want, except apparently the Europeans, who are pushing us towards nuclear Armageddon. And I take umbrage at that. So no, Europe is the enemy. Russia is the friend. And what they're doing to Jacques Baud is a travesty. I know for a fact that there's Europeans right now who disagree with the policies of the European Union. There's Germans who disagree with the policies of what Germany's doing. There's French people who disagree with the policies of Macron, British who disagree with the policies of Starmer. I know that there's good people in Europe. So you don't want to paint everybody with a broad brush. But if you're German, understand this. You are an enemy state. I'm not making it up. It's in the United Nations Charter, Article 53, Article 107. Oh, Scott, it's outdated. No, it's not. It's still the law. They haven't amended the charter. Well, in 1995, they passed a resolution by the General Assembly saying that it was moot, that these are good countries now. That was then. This is now. Nations change. And what we're seeing is Germany and Japan going back to the aggressive policies of the past. I mean, Germany literally could be taking pages out of Mein Kampf, Mertz, and reading them, just changing, updating it. It's the same thing. Militarization, Dragna Osten. I want to remind people about Ostplan, Plan Ost, the systemic slaughtering of the Slavs. And listen to the way Mertz talks about the Russians, the dehumanization of the Russians. So If you're German, understand this. You don't get a free pass at all. You have committed horrific sins in the course of the past century. Twice in a century and a half, you've taken the world to global conflict, killings hundreds of millions of people. And now you're getting ready to do it again. I'm sorry, I guess there are good Germans, but no. If you're a German right now and you understand your history, understanding the whitewashing of the Nazis that took place in the aftermath of the Second World War, understanding that Nazi war criminals were given a free pass by the United States, by the British, to be reabsorbed for the purpose of confronting the Soviet Union. And after Nuremberg, we basically stopped prosecuting the generals. And we whitewashed them. We went through a whole process of just making them smell good, letting them rewrite their history. All the interesting German books that came out about, warfare during the Battle of Normandy and the fighting, the tank wars in Eastern Europe, ignoring the fact of the horrific crimes that the same generals who wrote these books committed against the populations of these occupied nations. Why did we whitewash them? Because we needed the Germans to stand up against the Russians. We needed to be able to recreate a German army. We didn't call it the Wehrmacht, we called it the Bundeswehr. German industry, all of these industrialists who should have been put up against the wall and shot, were allowed to live and thrive without punishment. And today they're the heart of the remilitarization of Germany. Germany, cleanse thyself and recognize that the sins of the past survive to haunt you today. And I would say this about all of Europe. All of Europe has to take a long, hard look because, gosh, the last time I checked, almost all of Europe was occupied by the Nazis, and every single one of these occupied states had collaborators who caved into the Nazis. And I would say that the European Union, the non-German members of the European Union, are collaborators with the resurrection of the Third Reich, called the Fourth Reich today. I'm not exaggerating, people. Read the frickin' statements. Scott, you're mad. Yeah, I'm angry. And you should be too. Everybody should be angry. Furious that we've forgotten everything we claimed we stood for. The United Nations was supposed to be about preventing the very conflicts that Europe is talking about promoting. Scott, Russia invaded Ukraine. Again, you show your ignorance. Russia didn't invade Ukraine. Ukraine invaded itself, threatening the Russian-speaking population. And from 2014 till 2022, Russia bent over backwards, literally. They could have slaughtered the Ukrainian army in 2015, surrounded into Bolshevik. But Putin didn't want to do that. Putin didn't want to take Ukrainian territory. Putin said that these areas should be part of Ukraine, but the Ukrainians need to respect the legitimate rights of the Russian-speaking population. Germany and France and the president of Ukraine said, okay, spare the lives of our soldiers and we'll do all this. But now they admit it was a sham. They lied. Do you guys forget the lies that were told by the Germans, by Angela Merkel, by Francois Hollande, by Petro Poroshenko, saying, no, we will do this Minsk thing, but secretly saying, no, we're just buying time. We're never going to do it. And what were they buying time for? To rebuild the Ukrainian army to NATO standards, to be part of an expansive NATO presence that sought the strategic defeat of Russia, the collapse of Russia, the division of Russia. I mean, Kelly Kalas is at least honest enough to say what her goals are, to break Russia up. It's always been the goal of these European elitists. And you sit there and say, well, the Russians are to blame. Guys, you're lucky the Russians are patient, because if Russia was the United States, we'd have already taken Europe off the map, because Europe deserves to be taken off the map for the things that they're doing.